just kind of warming up, waking up the hands. They're pretty tight. Oh yeah, no days off for Tom. Yeah, but Gary is, yeah, that's right. Gary's not normally here. Now, when I did the live stream on, what was it, a weird day or something like that, you were there. Um, Holly, good to see you. Bob, thank you for being here. Bob was the only one at the live stream at the guitar store. I mean, I don't know what the peak was on that. What was that? It wasn't very many. It was like maybe 20, but it was cool. And it was, I don't know if you follow them on Instagram, but if you do, you can see it was crazy busy in there. I'm glad I did the video when I did it because literally the room was people to people once they did the ribbon cutting. Brad has a lot of friends and family and stuff, and so everybody was showing up and to support him. Um, if I don't know if you saw the video, but Jack's only been in LA for a couple of years. Nashville guy, did a lot of stuff in Nashville. He's a monster player. You know, the country stuff he can do, you know, without even thinking. It's pretty crazy. Um, but it was a pretty big success. There's actually a space next door that has yet to be used for anything. It's a new building, and that they're in. They're the first tenant in that building, and or the first tenant in that space. And the space next door is available. And when I interviewed Jack, I think maybe I asked him this outside of the camera. I can't remember if it was during the shoot or not, but he had a teaching studio where they had 600 students, I think in Virginia or something, and he sold that. Um, and so I taught in a studio like that. I mean, they probably had, I don't know if they had 600 students, but I had 40 students, and I was just one teacher, and there was a lot of teachers. So um, they anyway, they're thinking of opening a teaching studio next door to the store. So I think that's a pretty good idea. I I can't think of. I've lived here for 40 years. I can't remember there ever being a guitar store or a music store at all in Malibu, which is north of Los Angeles. It's not the easiest place to get to. You pretty much are dependent on canyon roads or Pacific Coast Highway. It's a beautiful community. Obviously, it's famous. You know, well known. A lot of celebrities live there. There's a lot of money there, obviously. So that would mean you could probably charge a fair amount for lessons but yeah, I don't know how if the video did well. I don't know what happened. I wanted to go landscape and it said I couldn't do it, and I think because I started the video, I was in um, portrait mode, and so then it locked at that point. So you know, I could experiment and try to go um, start a new video on portrait mode and see, but then you'd all get notifications like, oh, Tom's online. So, or I could probably watch a video. Hey, Bruce, how's it going? Let's see, who else is here? Oh, Joseph. Hey, Joseph, what's going on? The Time Prophet. Hail, Tom Strahle, whatever. Oh, hail. I'm gonna get stabbed in the back. You guys watch my back for me because I can't see my back. And 6ix9ine, nice, good to see you. Let's see. Sadie's here. Hey, good to see you. You remembered. Let's see. Who else? Okay. Looks like I've shouted out everybody. Sam's not here. Sam's probably still celebrating his Michigan victory. I'm curious where the coach is going to end up. I mean, he already coached in the NFL, didn't he? Coach the Niners or something, and then he quit the NFL to go to college. Harbaugh. He got in trouble in college for stealing signals. It's kind of like shoot, what was the coach for USC that went up to Seattle? The Seahawks. You know, he left the NCAA because there were so many rules and he kept breaking them. The NFL didn't have those kind of rules, you know. So, it in the Ides of March. Oh, that's good. But yeah, I was going to talk about. I mean, I really seriously did not know what I was going to talk about today until I almost did. Oh, the best lesson I ever learned, part 2. I started to type that in, and I went, no, I already talked about that last week, and I'm probably going to do a live stream, maybe. Well, I won't even monetize it, so there won't even be any ads, or maybe there will be ads if it's forced monetization, but where I talk about like 10 solos that influenced me, and they won't be ones you think. 10, and if same thing. If I did 10 guitarists, I don't know if you've been watching my channel for very long. I'm sure I've mentioned a lot of guitar players that you've never heard of, and those are the ones that are most influential. In fact, probably the most influential guitarists on me were teachers that I had that no one's ever heard of, and or guitar players that were local, like Rick Bennick in Indianapolis, who was in the band Roadmaster. And you can check out Roadmaster if you're a fan of 70s like prog rock, kind of prog. It wasn't really prog rock. I would say they were really close to like Styx or something. Their production wasn't quite as good as that. They did get a record deal, Roadmaster. They did get a record deal, but I became friends, and they were all older than me. I was, they were in their late 20s when I was in high school. And they got signed to Epic. And they toured. I think they warmed up Rush, and they did some tours with some different artists and things like that. And they weren't like prog like Rush at all. They were more melodic, kind of Zeppelin-y at times. Definitely Mac McNally, who died of cancer at a very young age. He kind of even looked a little bit like Robert Plant. And I was friends with him and his wife. They moved to California at one point, and I visited them when I came out to California in 1982 to check out, see if I wanted to live here. I actually went and saw them, and they were living in Anaheim, and they were working with, I think, the Elefante brothers, which were part of Kansas or something. So I think he and the drummer from Roadmaster, his name was Bobby Johns, and I don't know what Bobby's up to. Before he joined Roadmaster, he was in a band called Exile, which I had that hit, I think, I Want to Love You All Over, something, but that was after Bobby was in the band, so he never got to have a hit. And then Roadmaster that was Faith Band. That was the other band. There were two bands in Indianapolis. And Faith Band had a top 40 hit, literally hit 40, and with a song called Dancing Shoes. But the weird thing about that was that was a song written by the lead singer for Faith Band. Like I said, the other, what's his name? Oh, dang, I can't think of his name. Nice. Robert Plant. Yeah. Robert Plant actually plays harmonica and sings backgrounds for a friend of mine in his band, Buddy Miller in Nashville. So Buddy produced the album that Robert Plant did with Alison Krauss. And so they became deep friends, and Buddy used to live here in Los Angeles and lived in South Pasadena for a long time. I don't even know where he's from originally, but he and I became friends back then. Kind of 1 degree of separation there between me and Robert Plant. You've got 0 degrees of separation there, Time Prophet. But Carl Story, that's the name of the guy, the lead singer for Faith Band, that wrote Dancing Shoes. Well, Niles Olson, who was the drummer for Elton John, who did a record, had a hit with Dancing Shoes. like the same month. He released the same song. They released the song at the same time, so they were both climbing the charts at the same time, and neither one of them, like they took steam from each other or whatever. I mean, it was put on your dancing shoes. Oh man, what was the chord progression? Put on your dancing shoes. It was just a basic, pretty simple song. You can look it up. I can even find it here on YouTube and then post it in there. And probably when I type in "dancing shoes," the Niles one will come up first. So that's kind of a bummer. I felt like it was like this kind of dancing Arctic Monkeys. That would be awesome if there's the Niles Olsen one and say I don't even see. There's so many songs called "Dancing Shoes." Dan Fogelberg, Pink, Casey and the Sunshine Band. Oh yeah, Dancing Shoes by Casey. I remember that one. Niles Olsen, that one came up there. That's the same one. Cliff Richard. But now I'm going to have to enter Faith Band, and it might come up. There it is. Yeah, and it's just someone playing the album here. 55,000 views. It's so sad. I mean, it's just, you know, not because they were friends necessarily, but because they were Hoosiers. You know, you're rooting for your hometown team. And that applies to music too, right? How many of you have bands that you grew up with in your hometown that you think, man, they're going to be huge? And it's just like, oh man, it's just a bummer when it didn't happen for both of those bands. But some of the musicians, like the bass player from Roadmaster and the keyboard player from Faith Band, went on to play for years with John Mellencamp. So they got to play on hit records, tour, massive tours, and all that stuff. The Farm Aid stuff they were doing, all that. So there's "Dancing Shoes." You might recognize that song if you're, but it wouldn't. Oh wait. Oh, interesting. Oh yeah. Okay. So somebody's talking about it, and then they're playing it. So know that there's someone talking about it before they play the song. I have that album somewhere. Rockin' Romance. Apostrophe N. Maybe that's why they failed. Carl was a great guy. In fact, he played harmonica too. And I remember going to a rehearsal, and they were going to warm up Kenny Loggins at Madison Square Gardens, and they were rehearsing. And Carl, the truck that they put all their gear in, the big, cube van or whatever, the headlight was sticking out a little bit, right? And I've done stuff like this, and I'm sure you guys have done stuff like this. He saw it, he went, "Oh, I'll just knock." He popped it in like this, and it shattered and cut all the tendons in his hand. So he actually did the show, but he had a big cast on his hand, and oh man, that was brutal because I wasn't there. I was there the next day at rehearsal, and because they shared a space with Roadmaster, they had a giant one of those office park kind of places, where it was high ceilings and big rolling doors, so they could back the truck in and load all the amps in. Rick had like 4 Marshall double stacks, that kind of stuff. I was like, oh, it was ear bleeding loud. I would go to the rehearsals, and in those giant, no padding on the walls, nothing. It was like, holy cow. One-time profit. No. Let's see. Yep. Mellencamp lives in near Bloomington in Seymour, Indiana, I think. I think that's where he grew up. Let's see. Oh, time travel movies. Yeah. It's actually pretty preposterous, but I love them too. One of my favorite movies is Back to the Future. All 3 of them. The second one's the least liked one, and I actually really liked the second one, which was, we've talked about this before, but it was supposed to be all completely written around Crispin Glover, and he didn't want to do it, so they had to come up with a new script fast. And so it was a pretty rushed script writing. But dang, yeah, it's um, 57 seconds of Morgan Freeman. I'll have to check that one out. I don't know if I've ever seen that. Okay, yeah, if we could go back in time. So I'm talking about. I want to talk about trying to get out of ruts, and that's a real challenge for everyone. For in this, some of this might be able to be cross-pollinated with any endeavor, whether it be tennis or coding. I don't know. No, name an endeavor. I can't think. Gardening, basketball, piano, painting. So any of those things, we do find ourselves in ruts. As, I I don't feel like I'm in ruts. I think sometimes I am in a rut, and I don't know that I am. That's kind of weird. But sometimes I'm like, oh man, I just like if I'm doing solos. So see, I don't get asked to do a lot of solos, maybe because I'm not the best soloist. I don't know. I mean, mainly because nobody wants guitar solos on their records anymore. It's just not a thing. But it's I can solo and I can come up with good ideas. But I sometimes if I've worked on something here and I'm doing solos, I realize, oh man, I'm doing the same licks on all of these tracks or whatever, and maybe it does, maybe it matters, maybe it doesn't, but oh nice. Not caught up to you. Yeah, well, 400 is no small feat. Was it get to 1,000 you can monetize, is that right? Well, what is it? I'm assuming you're music related. I'll subscribe. I can do, if I haven't already. Do I like the augmented scale? Ro, can you say what notes in the key of C are the augmented scale? I mean, I'm thinking, are you thinking the whole tone scale? Everybody, I can show you the whole, that's a whole tone scale. I don't know if that's the augmented scale. I'm not sure what you would consider augmented scale. Augmented usually means the fifth. So when you say an augmented seventh chord, let me go to a clean sound. When I say augmented seventh chord, usually that means you're playing like an A7 chord, for example, like this. Maybe no, that's not a good example. Let's see. D. Okay, we're just gonna do this. Okay, I'm playing basically an A bar chord, A major bar chord at the 5th fret. And if you take off your pinky, that's A7. But a lot of times you don't want all of those notes because there's some redundancy in there. There's 2 fifths, here are 2 roots. So a lot of players will play A7 like this. Okay, so what I'm doing is I'm playing 5th fret and then not the A string, then 5th fret again, 6th fret with my pinky, and 5th fret again with my 3rd finger, and then not the 1st string. And that, because there's no open strings there, completely movable, whatever note that is on the bottom string, that's what chord it is. So A7, B flat 7, B7, C7. And personally, here's a rut killer. If it's a chord you don't know, like this one, but particularly a 4-finger chord like this is not. I mean, I probably, if I were to be playing with my fingers and I wanted this chord, I would probably play this. But if I want to go to a sharp 5, which is what an augmented chord would be, it's the 5th is right there, and then I go back to the 5 and then back down to the flat 5. And you can actually turn that into an exercise. That's kind of a rut breaker. The major mode of the harmonic the major mode of the harmonic minor. So A harmonic minor, you're thinking like the C. Oh, I see. Yeah. And I've never really. That one, not so much. I'll do the 5th mode of a harmonic minor, like. use more the third mode of the harmonic minor, not so much. It's nice though. So if I were to do that in E, it'd be like, oh. Wait, in E, right? Anyway, I have to map it out. My brain's not. I still got a lot of coffee left. Maybe when I get to the bottom of the cup, I can think that way. But that's cool. I tend to the harmonic minor. I do tend to gravitate towards the fifth mode. It just sounds real Middle Eastern to me. So if I pick up an oud or something like that, it's the first scale that I'll mess around with. So check this out. So this chord, these 4-finger chords like this, and this is a rut killer too. What I always tell students when I was sitting with a new student, whether it was a C chord or a D chord or a G chord, they're learning a new chord, or whether it was jazz voicings, I would say, and you've heard me do this, I said, take your hand off the guitar. You can just go like this, get your fingers to forget it, and then make it again. Okay? And it's going to be like, when you do it the first time, it's going to be like, what? Go here, 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 here. Right? It's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, done. Right? That's what it's going to be like. It's going to take you a minute. Okay? But the whole idea of that is to develop finger memory. So then you go like this again. This is my thing. This is not from a book or a doctor told me this or whatever. I'm just like, just get it out of your hand, throw it away, get bye-bye, and then try to grab it again. And then, that's, and so let me, I can tab out this, or not tab it out, but I can give you the frets here. So A7, and then it's 5X, 5, 6, 5X is how I'm playing that. All right. Now, a great little exercise, and I've been wanting to do a video on this. I actually have, I think, the diagrams of the chords already, but what I wanted to do was give you chord exercises that were musical. Okay, and this is fairly musical. I played years ago. It was literally one of the hardest things I've ever done. The guy, I got my Asturias, my classical guitar, which is around here somewhere. It's right behind me. You can't see it. Where is it? It's literally right there. It is, yeah, right there. My Asturias, I've had that thing since the early '90s, and it's a '70s Asturias, and it was cracked and had work done on it, but it's been fine since I've had it. And I don't humidify my office or anything like that very much. Every now and then I will, but I'm not really vigilant about that. It's out of its case most of the time. But I got called. He asked me to sub for and I don't like doing musicals, but he asked me to sub for him on a musical for a couple dates that he couldn't do. And I mean, I don't think I did very well. It was just it was at a high school, and I think it probably paid, I'm guessing $100 a night or $75. I'm not sure. It was probably a fortune to me at the time, but it was Evita, and it was a lot of classical guitar stuff and featuring classical guitar. So I had the book, all the charts. And I spent so much time practicing. I probably put 40 hours into that, just trying for those 2 nights, just to not make a complete fool of myself. And some of the hardest stuff is you're playing classical guitar at one point in the song, and then you got to switch to electric and then back to classical guitar. And you may have 4 bars or something. It's crazy. Some of that stuff is really, really insane. I mean, they do that so they don't have to hire another musician. It's just like, but there was a lot of that kind of stuff, and it would go on for a long time. So you'd be doing that, and I would be trying to, I would be making the whole chord, so what I'm doing is I'm playing that A7. And then I'm taking that top note and I'm going up a fret, and now it's A7 sharp 5. and then I'm going to technically what's A13. I'm raising that sharp 5 up to the 6th, and then back down to the sharp 5, and then back down like that. Well, I was probably doing something like, I didn't need to hit the bass. I could have just gone, I could even just done 2 notes. Because there were other people playing. I don't know if it did that, but stuff like that, where it was taking one note and moving it around, and it, to me, always, whenever I have to do that, I always think of Evita, and then I get a nervous feeling in my gut. I'm like, you know, that panic. It was a lot of that kind of stuff going on in the musical. It's a great exercise, though, just to, and know that basically when you're playing an A7 chord, that's you're playing the 5 chord in the key of D. So all the stuff you do could all lead to. So what I'm doing here is I'm playing A7. Okay, grab that chord, take your hand, blah, 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 take your hand away, forget it, remember it. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to move my pinky down to the 2nd string at the 6th fret, and I'm going to move my 3rd finger over here. Okay, so I just went from A7, and I'm going to write it down here for you, to A7 sharp, oops, what I would call sharp 5. You could also call it A7 plus signed, or you could say A7 augmented, AUG. I've seen that. But basically, I'm just going 5X, 5, 6, 6X, okay? And then if I do A7 flat 5, so you can go back and forth between these 3 chords, A7, A7 sharp 5, A7, A7 flat 5. It's a great little like finger twist, like a, you know, tongue twister, but for your fingers. I love it for that. And like I said, at some point I wouldn't mind, so this one's called A7 flat 5, which makes complete sense if you think about it. The top note on this chord is the 5th. So you're just sharpening it, then you're putting it back where it was, and then you're flattening it, and you're putting it back where it was. And it's, like I said, it's a, you know, tongue twisters are great for getting over speech impediments. Well, we have a finger impediment. And so the voicing there is 5 for the flat 5 one is 5X, 5, 6, 4X, all right? So that, I think I did it right. Correct me if I'm wrong. But there's the flat 5. That's a great chord. Okay, and that could lead, you know. See, I'm leaving my pinky where it is, and I'm playing a D major 7th, a very, very dissonant sounding D major 7. Listen to the notes. So I'm basically taking a C chord, moving it up 2 frets. That's all this is. And then I'm adding my pinky on the 3rd string at the 6th fret. So it's 5 in the middle 4 strings. 5, 5, 4, 6, 3. You could add the E. In this case, it's a pretty chord. Yeah, when you hit the wrong note, just call it jazz. Exactly. Or as I say, if you play a bad note, hit it again. They'll think you did it on purpose. That's what I always say. Yeah, it's been 30 minutes, yeah. So at 30 minutes, you're going to get a commercial. Just so you know, it's cool now that they set that automatically there. Because I used to have to go back, because people would go back and watch my videos, because I turn on ad monetization. I don't make a lot on the, seriously, I mean, I've told you, you know, it's like $3 or something, you know, total. So I'm not, so on an hourly basis, I'm making $1.50 an hour, which is pretty much my first job. But I mean, unless someone tips me. Someone tipped me on you can tip on a video. If you like a video I did, you can always send me money that way, and that comes to me. I think YouTube takes 30%. I get 70% of it, so pretty cool. And I don't mind YouTube getting 30%. That's, you know, that's less than an art gallery charges. Art gallery gets 50%. So this chord would be I would call this a D major 9. And we can talk about chord symbols. I've done talks about chord symbols before, but yeah. So that would be your one chord. So if I went, that would be technically resolution because when I'm hitting this, one of the things, sorry, morning phlegm. One of the things that like creates tension is weird notes like a flat 5 and that tritone. Okay, and a tritone wants to resolve. Right now you're hearing the key of D, so the key of A flat doesn't sound right. But both are equally strong resolutions. But this A7 flat 5, two of the notes are going down to that D chord. So there's a lot of downward, there's tension that resolves downward. And I could go to or I could go to like a 6 chord, a little more Elvis-y sounding. So the exercise, again, this is a bit of a rut killer, you know, something to just get your fingers to be able to do something like, right? I'm going A7, A7 sharp 5, A7, A7 flat 5, A7, A7 sharp 5. It also is teaching you where the 5th is in this chord. And that's true of all these bar chords. Now the thing is, you really couldn't do it with the bar chord. A, you don't have enough fingers. Plus, if you sharp the 5 here, you have another 5 here that you're going to have to sharp. So you end up with, and that's a hard chord to grab. I wouldn't do that. That's why you simplify it. Plus, if you want to play and do like chord melodies with your fingers, you know, and that way you only have to, you can select the strings in the notes you want. You don't need big chunky bar chords. Just more 4 voice chords are great. Stairway to Heaven was banned by the church. I never had a problem playing Stairway to Heaven. I mean, I wouldn't play it during the service, but let's see. Oh, you got Ablog. Oh, well, that's nice. Thanks for nothing. Yeah. Bob's got premium. Yeah, Bob, what do you pay for that? Is it $15 a month? It seems really kind of high. But you do get other stuff. It's not just like you get ad-free YouTube. I've just noticed that I think YouTube is having a rule now that if you're going to create an ad for YouTube, it has to be really annoying. I feel the same way with Spotify. I don't have a premium streaming music streaming thing because I thought about getting maybe the Apple Family thing for everybody so we could all have it. I think it was like $27 a month or something like that. But then all the kids could have Apple plus Apple TV plus the games and some storage. Anyway, with the streaming, I don't listen to that much music. And if I need to hear a song or something like that, I just pull up on YouTube and put up with an ad. So, but Spotify, the ads are like twice as loud as the music. It's really annoying because I tend to listen to a lot of classical music. So, oh, thanks, Raul. Yeah, that's just a really good little exercise. And you could do it with the minor 7s. Okay, you could do it with a major 7. So here's another one, an exercise that's based on Stormy Monday, right? The blues song, great song. Oh my gosh! And there's a turnaround that he does that. It's like, oh my god, it's just, and it sounds like a piano player. Um, and I think what he's doing there, and it may not be an exact, but it's beautiful. So I'm playing a B flat 13th chord. Okay, so I'm going to show you this chord. It's not actually a very hard chord. It actually, to be honest, if you just throw your hands on the fretboard, you almost make a 13th chord. Okay, but it's going to be B flat. So I'm going to change it to a different spot. Again, learning little things like this is a great way to bust a rut. And we're going to maybe talk about scales too. Somebody mentioned the augmented scale. Okay, so that B flat 13. Don't freak out by the name. Don't worry about it. There's no quiz on this. It's 6 and a nothing, and then 6, 7, 8, and then nothing. Okay. So I think this is going into the second 4 bar. So it's like, they call it Stormy Monday, but Tuesday is also bad. They call it Stormy Monday, you know, because blues is broken up into 3 sections, and usually it's like you sing the same phrase over the first and second section, and then you come up with a third section. Now, I don't even know if I'm getting the words right, but it's like, they call it Stormy Monday. Let's see, what is it? They call it Stormy Monday. But Tuesdays also bad. Stormy Monday. So he repeats that. But Tuesdays also sad. I don't know the word. And then that's usually like a turn on it, like Wednesdays was and Thursdays also sad, or something like that, right? You know, those are so rhyme. So the last 3 words of each of those, you know, the last word of each of those 3 phrases rhyme. I think I sang it in a band once, but just once. That band didn't go anywhere. Okay, so what's happening there is playing B flat 13, right? Have you got it? You got it in your hands? It feels good, right? Isn't that a great feeling chord? And look, if you just slide your pinky down, there's B flat 7 sharp 5. So that would be another exercise you could do. Remember back our A exercise. That's that Evita thing. It's just like, it's hard, but it's great for your fingers to kind of try to get that independence going. But yeah, there's the B flat 13, and that's the only chord we're going to use for a while. So it's like the 13th chord anyway. So it goes B flat 13, then A 13, 5th fret. B flat 13 and the B. It does that. It's just like, what? How does that even work? You're changing keys, and it's just like, it shouldn't work, but it does. So it's. And then he gets this note up here. So I'm barring. You can just hit it. We'll talk about this. But that's another. No, it's... What's that from? Is that Star Wars? I had no idea that John Williams stole from blues. Oh, Karen Carpenter had the most beautiful voice, the sweetest voice. Yeah, unbelievably talented. Horrible, sad to die of anorexia. I've seen her grave. She's because we Forest Lawn Cemetery on, is it Coinga? No, what is that on? It's on Forest Lawn Drive, right by Griffith Park, on the other side of Griffith Park. So you've got Griffith Park and the Greek Theater, and then you've got the Griffith Park Observatory at the top. They filmed the Terminator when Schwarzenegger comes down and he's naked. That's at Griffith Park Observatory. They also shot one of the James Dean films up there. A famous scene is up there because there's a bust of him in bronze of James Dean, and so that, and also the tunnel that goes up there that you take when you get up to Griffith Park. You have to go through a tunnel. That tunnel's in the tunnel in Roger Rabbit. It's the tunnel in Back to the Future. It's in a bunch of movies. And then, but on the other side of that hill is Forest Lawn Cemetery. So it basically mostly faces north on the Hollywood Hills. And it's just a bunch of really cool buildings there. They have a replica of the North Church in Boston. The pews and everything are just like it. It's really, really cool. And they have like these giant halls with tile work and stuff. And so, yeah, they basically, I saw Karen Carpenter. She's actually in, what's it called when you're kind of in an entombed thing? She's not in the ground. She's in this like wall of people. And then like Lucille Ball is there. It's a lot of people. Andy Gibb is there. Remember Andy Gibb? So anyway, totally sidetracked. You mentioned it's your fault. It's all your all's fault. Bass players are wrong. Okay, so I'm playing B flat 13. This sounds so complex. A 13, B flat 13, B 13, like that. So let's see. It starts out with this. So go B flat 13. So I'm just gonna say B flat, A, B flat, B, and then B flat to B flat again. Okay, so it's B flat, and then that's the rhythm. So 1, 2, 3, 4, boom, bum, 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 bum. And seriously, what that reminds me of is like a horn line. If you were to arrange this for horns, you'd have probably the tenor sax play this note, the alto sax play this note, maybe the trumpet play this. You might not do all of that. You might have them just go bum 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 bum, and they would all go to unison. So the tenor would have to jump up there. The alto, some of them would have bigger jumps than others. Unison on that, and then back to bum bum bum. I can hear a horn section doing something like that, and I think that's what he was kind of, a lot of times when you're in a trio, the guitar player has a lot of pressure. A piano trio, the same thing. Piano player has a lot of pressure to fill it out. And so that's probably what he was doing. It's probably just him and a bass player and a drummer. And he was trying to make it sound jazzy or make it sound like a bigger band than it was. So we got all that. So get that B flat here, top string, 6th fret, and then I'm playing what basically a 9th chord here, or this is another 13th chord. So this is B flat 13th, and this is E 13, a tritone away. Okay. They call it Stormy Monday, but Tuesdays are so bad. Wednesdays was. Thursday's also sad. Something like. Back to the top. So that what I'm doing there, so we're going to start with an E9 chord. I call this the James Brown chord. And it's going to make an appearance in my next video that I post. I'm almost done with it. I need to do more. I've got 2 videos that I've filmed, but I haven't done all the work on it. So I gotta get busy. But that's the problem. I'm too busy to kind of get to it, or too tired. When I have time, it's like my brain is tired. So that E9 chord, basically, I'm not playing the bottom string. I know Tim. Yeah, I know Tim Pierce. Yeah, I mean, I don't think we've ever worked on anything together. Usually, don't have 2 guitar players. But yeah, I know. I see him at the NAMM show. In fact, I may go to the NAMM show. I haven't decided yet. I'm trying to decide. If I go to the NAMM show, maybe I'll live stream it. Might be kind of fun. There's something about that too. About last week when I live streamed, it was interesting. So the E9 chord. I haven't been to Tim's house, but I've been to sessions with Tim. Let's see. Is basically this. So you got 7, 6, 7, 7, 7. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to lay down your 3rd finger on the 7th fret, top 3 strings, like that. Okay. And what's happening there is you're playing the middle 4 strings, and then adding this note. So really, what I'm playing is an E. Oh yeah, Tim's content's great. He's much more into it than I am. I mean, he makes decent money on it. He makes a lot of money on his teaching thing. You know, I should have probably done something like that, but I don't know. I just like working and making music and working with people and stuff like that. So that's kind of what I emphasize. So E13 is really what we're going to need here, and it's nothing, and then 7, 6, 6, oops, 7, 7, 9. So that's this chord. So you can just make this chord, play it to the middle 4 strings, hit that note later. So I'm just grabbing the middle 4 strings here with my right hand, and then I'm just hitting that 1st string like that. And then you can just move the whole E9 chord down to E flat 9, and that's our 4 chord in the key of B flat blues. Okay. You don't need to use your fingers either. You can use your thumb or your pick. You can even do that. See what I'm doing? I'm doing E9, hitting that 13th and then going down. But I like this voicing. Even it's totally Star Wars. Isn't that funny? And it's a major triad. Why does it sound so minor? You know, but that's what's happening. But you could also, like I said, it's a nice little. And if this is too hard for you, you can simplify it by not getting rid of the bass note, because you might have a bass player if you're doing this. And then in this scenario, I'm actually barring with my 2nd finger and doing that. And then going from E9 to E flat 9. Yeah, well, that would. Well, here's the thing. From years of playing, my left hand is actually longer than my right. I don't know if you can see that. So this hand over here is my left hand. And I'm lining up the bottoms as best I can, like totally even Steven. And you can see it's, I don't know, a few millimeters, right? 5 millimeters maybe? No, maybe not that much. The real crazy thing is, from years and years of playing, is how much more stretch I have, okay? So if I put my 2 index fingers together, you can see how much further my left hand can. I'm trying as hard as I can. Look at that. That's like an inch of extra stretch this way. So, you know, there's certain chords that I can, you know, can sometimes grab. That's also going to make an appearance in my next video. But yeah, definitely playing has increased that. I think probably every breath you take alone, that song alone probably added 3 millimeters to my hand, because I was like teaching it so much, you know, back in the day. Yeah, so messing around, you know, one of the things about like computer programs and software, when you're learning something, as long as it's not a critical thing you're working on, just experiment, right? Like you can, there's always the, you know, Command Z for undo, at least on Apple. I'm not sure what it is on PC, but probably the same. Command, you know, Z to undo anything you do. The same thing's true with like when you're just messing around with like a C chord. You're like, okay, what if I add this? Oh, okay, what if I got my pinky for just start experimenting and see what you come up with. There might be something that really works cool, like you're playing a G chord, you know, or you try go to a D chord. I mean, how many songs are written with just somebody kind of go noodling around going, it's so 70s sounding. But it's just such a noodling thing. It's just like, that's, you know, that's often how I write. I get a sound up I like. If I find something I'm like, okay, like, you know, maybe I'll pull up a sound like, was this one like that? I don't know. Oh no. How about this one? Let's see, try this one. I might start messing around and I might take something like, oh yeah, maybe there's something, or maybe, and just start messing around until I kind of come up with something I think is cool. Then I try to get it down so it sounds like I've been playing it for 6 months. So that the faster I can get that to that point, the sooner I can hit record. And I'll probably hit record long before that, so I capture it in case I stumble on something. A lot of times, you know, it's like you're messing around. Oh wait, what was that? That was cool. You know, you accidentally do something. You want to be able to listen back to it. So a lot of times when I'm writing, I'm just hitting record and recording everything I'm doing. That way I can go back. 99% of the time I don't. But that 1% of the time where I did something that I'm not exactly sure what I did, or if I played it a certain way with a certain feel and I'm like, man, I'm not liking where this is headed. I like it the other way. So we talked about, so we're just talking about getting out of ruts. And a lot of players do get into ruts when they work on their soloing and things. And a lot of players know a lot of scales, like major. And you're like, okay, I can play a fast scale, but it's like nobody really wants to hear that. So one of the things what that is I call that a 3-per. In other words, 3 notes per string. I'm playing C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. And you can practice like patterns, like a grouping of 3, 1, 2, 3. Some of those patterns, like the groupings of 3, groupings of 4, things like that, are easier one way or another. You might go, man, I can do it descending fast, but I can't do it ascending fast. You know, like. I think I can do it better with pentatonic. That's a pentatonic, but yeah, it's. You know, it's something I used to work on because I was just looking for ways to play through a scale that wasn't. So, you know, grouping to 3, not bad. And then you could do groupings of 4. And you're going to find that there's challenges, like when I'm descending, I have to lay down my finger. I have to play this note, then this note. No. Like that. So you'll find little challenges like that you kind of have to muscle through or work through, and those are good to get through your fingers. But a lot of that stuff is like, okay, that just sounds like a million other people. Well, one of the things you can do, in like groupings of 5 is another one. But now you're really going to have to do some string movement. I don't even know how I would do it. Groupings of 5 with pentatonics, like A minor pentatonic. Usually I would do it descending, but always sounds like Eric Johnson to me. He does a lot of 5 groupings. And the cool thing about the grouping of 5, if you're doing 16th notes, it gets offset. So like you start the phrase on the downbeat of 1 E and 2, then you go back to start the phrase again, and you're on the E of 2, and then you're on the and of 3, and then the of 4. And then if you want to make it go faster, and I'm not talking about speed pick, but descending the notes faster, instead of doing grouping of 5 starting on every note, check this out. So what I just did was I started on this note and went down 5 notes. Like that. And then I went to the second note, which is this note, and started there and went down 5 notes, right? And then I went to the third note in the scale, and then the fourth note, and so on and so forth. But you could start the pentatonic scale starting on this note, and then this note, and then this note, doing the groups of 5 that way. And I think Eric Johnson does that a lot, where it's now you have to lay down your finger to get it, but and you can do pull-offs, but it definitely sounds a lot faster. Like here's where I'm using every note as a starting note of the grouping of 5. Whatever, okay? Now here's where I'm skipping a note. So I'm going, instead of here, 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 I'm just using this wall right here, okay, of this pentatonic, and it sounds like this. And I'm finishing with a group of 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And that gets you from here to here a lot faster. It's a lot less notes. It's half as many notes. And there I'm pulling off. So part of the thing, Time Prophet, is for speeding up. You can pluck every note, and that has a certain energy, right? There's a certain energy to plucking every note. But it's more difficult if you pull off. You only have to play half the notes. You only have to pluck half as many notes. So, and one of the things I would do, Time Prophet, is maybe take that scale and not necessarily go down like this, like the same 5 notes, like straight down the scale. Maybe start out like, and then skip a string. Like, it's going to sound more interesting because you're going to have a minor third, which is no big deal, but that's a 5th. Now you have a 5th move. And I might say, okay, I'm only going to use those 2 strings for a solo. to go a new. And that's an exercise. It doesn't sound as much like an exercise as just doing a bunch of groupings of 3 and groupings of 4. But technically, you're limiting yourself to 2 strings. And it's by default, and I could maybe say I can do any notes on those 2 strings. That opens up, maybe in this case, the whole key of C. And it's actually a great way to start learning. You could just say, I'm only going to play on 1 string. I could say, I'm only going to play on the 3rd string. And that's a great way to learn a string. So maybe you play 10 minutes that way. And then you go, okay, now I'm only going to play on the 2nd string. And it forces you to, learn the fretboard. It's one of the best ways to learn your fretboard, at least learn that scale. At that moment, and then you go, okay, we're going to go to the key of B flat, and we're going to find all the notes in. And then you can do the Dream On, right, all the way down the string, those kind of things. And so that's a way to get out of your rut, is to just limit yourself. It's actually it seems really counterintuitive, because you think, oh, I want to get out of my rut. I want to expand my horizons. No, one of the ways to get out of your rut is to narrow your horizons, not your horizons so much, but narrow your options. And it forces you to make that work, and that, boom, that knocks through walls. And same thing with like the what I call the threepers. So if you know threepers, and like I said, that's my term, but just scales where you're playing 3 notes per string. Well, play just the 1st and 3rd note on each string, right? So now you're playing the outside notes. It sounds like this. It doesn't sound like a C major scale at all, but every one of those notes, like that, yeah, I saw your comment, Joseph. Yeah, I put those up there quite a while ago, huh? So like, I'm going to play that over this progression. This is a progression in A minor, basically C major. It's funny because all those notes. But again, that's another way to kind of get you out of your music. Now, I wouldn't necessarily recommend doing a whole solo that way. You just kind of use it in a moment, like. See, I just kind of. But I'm just kind of using them in, it's you can practice that way. Like I said, you can play for 10 minutes just using the outside two notes of threepers. And then you could do it with the first two notes. So you end up with these weird. And again, that doesn't sound like a C major scale, but all those notes are in key of C. Hey, Charlie, what's going on? The Lord got you up. And, it's a little weird sounding, but again, you might practice it for a while, 10 minutes that way, just limiting yourself to that. Or you could do the second and third note of every. It also sounds kind of odd, but every one of those notes should. Then you find a note that resolves, that works, that's not in your pattern, But that's in the musical context. In the practicing, you can just sit here and go. Just weird. Yeah, so those are kind of tricks. And then, like, let's say we're taking the two outside notes, like I was doing that one, right? It's so weird sounding, but it's cool, and like I said, it'll work. But now skip a string. So now do the same thing, but use every other string. And this is how I've come up with a lot of licks that I use a lot. So what I'm doing is I'm taking like different groupings, not consistently the first and third note of those threepers, sometimes the first and second note. Like in this case, I was doing like, but that's how I arrived at that, was doing like that kind of thing, but then skipping a string, and I went, oh, that's cool. And the right hand thing, let's see, I'm pulling off there. Yeah, it's a very, very Paul Gilbert type of thing to do. What time is it? Oh gosh, let's see, what time did I start? Oh, 9. So it's been about an hour. It feels like an hour. It feels a little longer than an hour. Oh, I got some things to do today, so I'm probably not going to be able to go much longer. But let me see. If you got some questions, this would be a good time to ask them. We got 31, not bad. Not 31 concurrent. What did we peak at? Well, pretty much that. 34, 36, 35. All right. Always happy to answer questions if I can. And yeah, those, you were listening to classical pieces. I think I wrote those in 2000, or I recorded those like back in 2000. Getting to Richard's going to a voice lesson. Nice, good for him. Taking a couple voice lessons, mostly from friends. (6:18 p.m.) Oh yeah, you're in England. Wait, 30. Wait, now I've got. I've got 27 likes. So maybe you just need to refresh. Well, if you refresh, you might get an ad or something like that. Yeah, overhead. Yeah, and Christ the Soul Revealer. Yeah, and that. Yeah, I was just. I now overhead. I don't remember which one is overhead. Am I going to get into trouble here if I listen to it here on YouTube? Is that kind of an ethereal? Oh, that thing's I think a 12-string thing. Yeah, and I was just using pictures that I took of. Yeah, that's a 12-string. It's really yeah. Photos of our London trip in 2014. The you know, I'm always writing and creating and doing stuff like that, and I was like, oh, I should post that on YouTube, and it's gotten what 229 views. Let me see the analytics. Let's see how much money I've made off this. Oh, that's the parlor. Oh, wait, see. Oh, that was the parlor. Yeah, it sounded like a 12-string, didn't it? It's just the parlor. It's the high-strung guitar. So you get all sorts of interesting harmonies when you play with a high-strung guitar. Yes. Basically, to play C Dorian, you would play a B flat scale, but start on C. Yeah. Yeah. And so a C Dorian, like you might use a C Dorian scale and think a C Dorian scale. A lot of times somebody play a C Dorian scale and you go, okay, where's B flat? Okay, here we go. You know? But a lot of times you might do a C Dorian scale when you're doing a vamp between the 2 chord and the 5 chord. Let me see. In B flat, that would be it'd be C minor. Oh, I need to click. So C minor, 2, 3, 4. To F7. That was very sloppy, but George Benson would play over those kind of progressions all the time. And a little trill there, and a little trill up here. All right, let's get rid of it. Okay, let's quantize. Oh, come on. Quantize to the quarter note. There we go. And then I'm just going to vamp that. So, no. I may need some drums. Hold on. There's no bottom end because I got the bottom end rolled off so it doesn't distort the microphone in here. Oh, that's a drummer track. Okay, well I'll just let the drummer play that. The rock drums. I could change that. Man, that's a really open hi-hat. That's crazy. I don't want cymbals. Get rid of the cymbal. I'm just going to hit a cymbal every time. Oh, wait. So it's just basically C minor 7 to B F7. Go with a kind of a Pat Metheny sound. Here's the nice thing about this position of the Dorian scale is there's two passages where it's the same 3 fingers, two strings in a row. So play 7th fret on the 4th string, 7, 8, 10, 7, 8, 10. And time, profit, this is kind of how you, one of the ways you get faster is to just play fast in a little space. Like, don't try to play fast like the holes in, you know, just try to, just get your fingers used to these 6 notes, or even 5, or 4. Always good to work with like a metronome too, or like if you can program a little bit of a groove here, you can set it right now. The tempo's at 80, so you get it down. You get, I'm playing like what's those 2, 3, 8 notes or 16. Here's quarter notes, 3, 4. Eighth notes. Then try triplets. Those are triplet 8s. Then you could go to 60s. 4. So I'm playing 4 notes in every beat. Yeah, no, I always recommend that. Always recommend playing to a drum track over a metronome. And because you can swing a drum track, so it can help you to learn how to swing and stuff like that. It's more fun. It might be a better thing. Like jazz players might say, no, you got to use a metronome. Because lots of jazz players, they'll set a metronome, like they'll do, set it for, so they're hearing 2 and 4, and that helps them to learn how to swing. So they're hearing tap, 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 1, 2, 2. So they're, you know, that's kind of a weird, you know, thing among jazz players. But I've heard it from so many different players that, yeah, you set the metronome in, and it, like if you set it 120 and you have pat, 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 you know, then you're really playing at 240 kind of thing. So, but you know, now I can technically speed this up, and I could be practicing not go to 84 or 82 BPM and spend a week there, and then spend a week at 84 and it's 86. Or if you want to go faster, you can obviously go a day, you know, try to up it. That was what, in classical guitar, everybody take a sip because I'm going to change guitars. That's kind of what you would do, and I would use a metronome with classical. A drum machine might be kind of weird, but when you're working on your Segovia scales in classical guitar, like the C, one of the things you do is you do quarter notes, or yeah, 8th notes. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm out of tune. But you do 8th notes, you do triplets. I would do 4 different. Oh wait, I'm tuned down a whole step. Hilarious! I forgot I did that. I was kind of going for a Jolene vibe on something I was writing. So I tuned this guitar down a whole step to give it a really kind of sloppy, kind of a greasy sound. I only have the one classical, so, and I have a flamenco, but if I had another classical, I might leave it tuned down all the time, because I do like the sound of a whole step down. The strings are kind of slapping against the fretboard. It just sounds. So when I would do Segovia scales, you know, would do 1, 2, eighth notes, 4. And even if it's easy, faster stuff is coming. So it's just kind of a good way. Now, another tip is with classical guitar, you use short notes just for the practicing of it. Because what that teaches you, it gets your fingers to prepare the next note. When I'm hitting short, what I'm doing is I'm muting with the next finger. You can practice that. But what that does is that helps you prepare and get the next finger ready to go. Then I would do triplet. 1, 2, 3, 4. Be like 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And then 16 does. So that would be like 16. Da, 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 1, 2, 3. 1 E end, a 2 E end, a 3 E end. Now, the one that's actually the most helpful, my teacher didn't teach me. I learned this somewhere else from a book. I think it was, it's a really good classical guitar book for learning technique. And it was a dotted eighth to a 16th. Almost sounds like a swing thing, but it's like. See that? See that? I have to move. And that's a really good pattern to practice if you're working on classical stuff. Obviously, you could go slow. But it really teaches you to prepare. That's a really big one. So, yeah, that shift is brutal. The nice thing, that's a Segovia scale, and Andre Segovia came up with the best way to play all 24 major and melodic minor scales. The most efficient way for speed purposes. And because the guitar is not a very symmetrical instrument. Like on violin, you learn one scale. It's like you're doing 4 fingers per scale per string, but it's totally different than guitar. And so the C scale, which is also the same as the C sharp scale, and also the D scale, and also the E flat scale. All 4 of those keys are played identically. So it's not like you have to learn 24 different scales. It's really, ultimately, I could do a count. Like the G scale, I think, is the same as the F sharp. And in this case, like with the C scale, the ascending is the same as the descending. It's the exact same roadmap. But the G scale, or this scale, and which is also F sharp, A flat, A, B flat, and maybe B. Let's see. Yeah. So they're all the same. So again, there's 5 scales using one pattern. But the interesting thing about this is it's a 3-octave pattern instead of this 2-octave one. And the reason it's not more than 2 octaves is because there's not another C. That's the highest C on the guitar. That's a B note. If some guitars have a C there, then you would have a different C scale. You would probably start here. Like that. So the G scale is this way going up. So a lot of shifting on the first string, and then coming down. You're actually coming down on a different scale, and then you shift. So you shift on the first string and on the 5th string. But on this one, you shift on the 3rd string once, and then twice on the E string. I haven't done these in a long time. But again, typically when you're practicing these, you do circle of fifths. So you go C, and then I might go A minor, which is melodic minor, so it would be A. Yeah. And the minors are are different ascending than they are descending. So the way it's called a melodic minor, and that would be A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G sharp, A, and descending is A, G, F, a pure A minor, A, G, F, E, D, C, B, A. So a lot of leading, a lot of climbing with that. And that's how you do the minor. And A minor is the same as G sharp minor, G minor, F minor, B, but not B minor. B minor starts here, I think. I can't remember. I have the book. I have to look it up. But yeah, so there's, and then C minor would be here. So, and that, you know, there's only 2 octaves of a C minor chord, so on and so forth. So, but the different rhythmic, that dotted 8th to a 16th note rhythm is a really good way. You could probably, it probably could help you on electric guitar as well. Everybody take a sip. I'm changing guitars again. So for example, if you wanted to work on, you know, your C. Your C Dorian scale. I see. All right. So anyway, that's the latest. And what's going on? Let's see here. Yeah, mandolin. Yep. Oh, what's that tuning for? Ah. Yeah, violin is tuned like a mandolin is tuned like a violin. Now we got 36 all of a sudden. Hey everybody, any questions? All of a sudden people are realizing I'm online. But somebody asked me about is C Dorian just basically B flat starting on C, and yes, you play all the notes in the key of B flat, but you play from C to C, and that would be a C Dorian scale. So the Dorian scale is the second mode in any major key. So if you're in the key of G, the Dorian scale in the key of G would be A Dorian. If you're in the key of D major, then the Dorian scale would be E Dorian. And Dorian is a minor scale. It's like a minor scale. E Dorian has a C sharp in it, whereas E minor does not has a C natural in it. So it's a Dorian scale is a minor scale with a raised 6th note. So if you count up the scale tones in the key, like A minor, for example, is the easiest one. A, B, C, D, E. Normally, A minor would be F, would be the 6th note. A, B, C, D, E, F. But a Dorian scale, you raise that note. So it's A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, and then the last 2 are the same, G and A. And that the difference between those two, it's definitely kind of a different sound, maybe a little bit more jazzy. That's minor. Dorian. It also is getting closer to a major scale, just by one note. Yeah, Gary is right. It's a 1, flat 3, 4, 5, 6, flat 7. Okay? And has a totally different, you know. If I were just to play an A minor chord, what would that be? There's no 7th in there. There's no 6th in there. So you really don't know what. I'm going to go to 8th now. You really don't know anything about this key other than it's a minor chord. So that would be minor. Okay, but if I did A Dorian over it, also would work. Yeah, so, but that's not to say when you're playing a song and an A minor chord comes up, you can play either. No, you have to take into consideration that A minor, is it the 2 chord or is it the 6 chord? If it's the 2 chord, then you're in G, and therefore a Dorian would work. But if it's a 6 chord, then you're in C, and don't worry, there won't be a quiz on this. Take a celebratory, where's that? There we go. There won't be a quiz on this. Take a celebratory sip. But yeah, it depends on, you know, what the root of the key is, to which is ultimately going to work over that. But if it's just an A minor vamp, then you can kind of do whatever you want. Let's see, what else? Sam is very happy. Michigan won the national championship for the first time in a long time. How many times have they won the national championship in your lifetime, Sam? Twice. That's it. Oh, okay. Wow. Yeah, everything's going to get all messed up now because they're going to have, like, Big Ten's going to have 400 teams in it or something like that. Is anybody getting kicked out of the Big Ten to add all those Pac-10 teams? Yeah, so so that's basically zombie guitar. Oh, yeah, no, I mean, I don't know if I make modes more confusing or less confusing when I teach modes. I have a lesson I teach on modes. I keep threatening to do it. I would do it with students. I would have this lesson where I teach you all 7 modes, and then how to play them in every key, or at least how to figure them out in every key. I would show you the modes in the key of C. So you would have all the 7 modes that are relative to the key of C have the same key signature as C. And then we would analyze the whole steps and half steps. So we would go through it, and with that you would start to see patterns emerge. And then what we would do is take those whole steps and half steps, and we would make C scales. All C scale, all the modes starting on the key of, or starting on the note C. So you would have C Dorian, C Phrygian, C Lydian, C major, C minor, all of that stuff. And then we would analyze those. So we would do another analysis, and we would look at C Dorian, and what is it? Like you're saying, it's the root, the third, flat third. I'm sorry, root, second, flat third, fourth, fifth, sixth, flat 7, or if we look at C Lydian, we're like root, third, or root, second, third, sharp 4, 5, 6, 7. But what I would normally do is have this. That's why it's hard to do this lesson on YouTube. I would have the student tell me the answer to every single note, and they would guys go, so okay, let's look at that C major scale. What's the first interval? Is it a whole step or a half step? And they'd be like, it's a whole step. Right, there you go. And what's the next interval? D to E. That's a whole step. Oh, very good. And we've done some of this on my channel. Okay, now what about E to F? Ooh, that's not a whole step. That's a half step. Oh, very good. And we get to the end of that scale, and it's like, oh, look, lo and behold, we have a formula for a C major scale. Whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half. Well, now what we can do is we can take that formula and take any starting note, and we can create a major scale. And I would do that for all 7 modes. So if you wanted to, if you had a Phrygian, you knew the formula for a Phrygian scale was half, whole, 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 half, whole, whole. Then you would you'd be able to make a Phrygian scale starting on F if you wanted to. And it would be F, G flat, A flat, B flat, C, D flat, E flat, F. And it was like it was crazy because they'd be like, wait a minute, I understand this. But it's really difficult to teach that and just go, here it is, and check this out. And it's like, I almost need to have a person sitting here that's, understanding it or learning it right in front of you. That might work. That's what Segovia would do. Well, that's what a lot of classical guitarists do. They'll teach lessons, but they'll have an audience. So the audience, they don't have guitars in their hands. They can just watch the lesson. So, there's, 3 people that audition, everybody auditions and the best 3 players get into the lesson and everybody else just has to watch, be in the peanut gallery. Yep. Yeah, that was a good game. Yep. Yep, the Lions game was a good game. We had a whole bunch of people over for a gathering, so some of the guys, we were watching the game a little bit, but some of the time we couldn't. But yeah, I mean, I in that one I was happy no matter who won. If the Rams won, okay, cool. I feel like the Rams are. I'm telling you, LA is the worst city for supporting sports teams. The only team they support in LA, maybe the Dodgers, yes. I guess the Dodgers. But especially the Lakers. They're diehard, and you go to a Laker game and it's almost all Laker fans. You go to a Dodger game, it's pretty much all Dodgers. But you go to a Rams game, almost doesn't matter who they're playing. But if they're playing the Raiders, it's like 80% Raiders fans. It's ridiculous. It's like all the LA fans, they just rather make money selling their tickets to the Raider fans. Same thing with San Francisco. When the Rams are down here, when the Niners are in LA, it's a sea of red. It's so ridiculous. Part of it's because the people coming from San Francisco, but also because there's so many San Francisco 49er fans in Los Angeles. And it's justified because we didn't have an NFL team for 17 years, I think it was, that we didn't have an NFL team. And the Chargers are never going to catch on. The Chargers would have to win 5 Super Bowls in a row before you would have a lot of Charger fans. The Rams kind of are in the same boat. They win a Super Bowl, and then the next season you go to their games, and it's still mostly the opponent's fans. But, everybody had to choose a team when we didn't have it, because the Rams became the St. Louis Rams, and no one in LA is rooting for a St. Louis team. That's just not going to happen. So they all became Raiders fans, or they became Niners fans. That's almost, or they chose America's team, the Cowboys, blah. Or they chose a winner, everybody starts following a winner like the Patriots, right? And that drove me crazy. I did that when I was 7, but oh, my favorite team is whatever team won the Super Bowl last year, Insert team here. Oh, thanks, Bruce. I appreciate that. Yeah, that's basically right. Time Prophet. If you know how to play a C major scale, then you know how to play all the modes. If you start on D, that's D Dorian. If you start on E, it's E Phrygian. If you start on F, it's F Lydian. If you start on G, it's G Mixolydian. If you start on A, it's A minor or A Aeolian. If you start on the B and go B to B using all the notes in the key of C. It's kind of a weird scale, but it's B Locrian. Theoretical. I've written a couple songs in Locrian just for fun, but oh, you wish you got the Rams in Vegas. No, the Raiders are ultimately going to be a really good team, I think. I think the Raiders are ultimately going to be a really good team. They will have it. They will win a Super Bowl. I predict they'll win a Super Bowl in the next 10 years. Seems like a long time to wait, but I think they will. I think the Lions will win a Super Bowl in the next 10 years. I don't know if they'll win this year. Who do they? Well, they play the winner of tonight, right? Or yeah, they play the. So who's? Let's see. Yeah, I don't know. So the Eagles are playing the Buccaneers. So the winner of that game plays Lions. I don't know. The Eagles are kind of on the they skidded out at the end of the season. This has been a really weird NFL season. You had a lot of teams that started really poorly and ended strong, like the Rams, perfect example. I didn't think they were making the playoffs. Halfway through the season, you were like writing them off. And then there were teams that were like the Eagles were 11-0, and now and we're talking football. Sorry, I'm losing an audience. I'm sure. Yep, it's dropping off. But the Eagles, they were 11-0, and then they just awful. Even the Niners, I felt like they ended the season very weak. And you're going to have Brock Purdy, it's going to be 3 weeks since he took a snap. So that can be a problem. It certainly was a problem for baseball with that week off in baseball. The Dodgers had Dodgers and the Atlanta Braves had the best record in the majors, and they both lost in the first round. It's like, yeah. So, yeah, Chargers moved to LA. They're the Los Angeles Chargers now. So, yeah, LA now has 2 teams. I mean, that stadium is phenomenal. I've not been to it. The parking's like $85. So I'm like, yeah, no. I mean, they have shuttles you can take from other locations and stuff. That's what I would do if I went. I don't know. I'd rather watch the game at home. It's just what's crazy is everybody was complaining about that one game being on Peacock, which is a streaming service here in America that's, well, it's worldwide, I'm sure, but Peacock is owned by NBC Universal. And they put the game on. They had 23 million viewers, and people were complaining, "Oh, you got to pay for it." Well, actually, you could do a free week or 2 weeks, and that's what a lot of people did. They signed up for a free 2 weeks. But I had Peacock. I have the cheapest version of Peacock. I think it's $6 a month or something. It's not very expensive. It has ads. I don't mind ads at all. And sometimes, like with Peacock's cool, they'll do like 3 minutes of ads up front, and then they give you the whole movie without ads. And so that's cool, So then, if you watch it in one sitting, now if you come back to it the next day, there'll be ads again. But if you can get through a whole movie in one sitting, which I usually can, then depends on the movie. But you can sometimes watch it without ads because it's front loaded with ads. But I've never minded ads. It's just how I grew up. It kind of reminds me of that. I really like Pluto TV is great. Pluto TV is a free thing you can download for your TV or for your phone and watch a lot of shows. They have just live shows, streaming live. They have a channel that's like just I Love Lucy 24/7. There's Sanford and Son, I think, is 24/7. Addams Family 24/7. This is so funny. And they just, it's just like they just air it, and we'll see if somebody watches. Great. If not, then no big deal. They even have game shows on there. They have the price. Let's Make a Deal, and I have a lot of music on this. I'm hoping I'll see some royalties again for Let's Make a Deal because it's starting to air on these weird streamers, kind of broadcast cable/streamer. I'm not sure what Pluto TV is. Tubi is another one. A lot of them have live news. You can watch New York CBS, I think, on Tubi. You can watch Baltimore and Phoenix and Chicago, all the CBS live feeds. So that's kind of cool. And it doesn't cost anything. It's totally free. So the streamers have, even though the streamers are all raising their prices, they have more and more competition. But the Peacock thing had 23 million viewers. It was the largest streaming audience, live streaming audience in the history of the internet. It had the internet had it was the most pull on the internet in the history of the world. Like it was the most internet usage at one time in the history, and the internet held up. Like nobody lost, as far as I know, nobody lost their service. So yeah, that's awesome. Pluto TV. Like I said, I wrote a lot of music on Let's Make a Deal, and then they stopped using my music. But those songs are all embedded on these old episodes, and I just think, well, they'll never see the light of day because they're not going to play the old episodes because the old episodes were the old aspect ratio and everything. They weren't HD, and new episodes now are HD, and now they have a channel that's just the old ones, 24/7. Now, is it going to be $150,000 a quarter? Absolutely not. But if it's $100 a year, yeah, it's one of those things where it was work I did years ago, over 10 years ago, so around 10 years ago. So it would be awesome to start to see some money for that again. I made good money when they aired originally, and game shows don't typically air more than once, except when they are in repeat seasons. So. The Showtime Anytime app, yeah. And we had HBO for a while, but we got rid of it. That's pretty expensive. Showtime is expensive too. There's some good stuff. I think if you get the premium Paramount TV, I think it comes with Showtime. I think, but I think that one's $16 a month or something. So I don't know. I hate monthly bills. I hate recurring bills. It drives me crazy. I refuse to use any software where I have to pay monthly. I'm not doing Photoshop. You can take a hike. I'll find other stuff that I can buy. So Monty Hall was the original, yeah. So Price is Right, which was who was the host of Price is Right back in the day? Well, now it's Drew Carey. Drew Carey, is that right? He it never stopped. Oh shoot! I can see him from Happy Gilmore, Adam Sandler movie. Bob Barker. So Bob Barker was the host of Price is Right for years, and then what's his name took over. Drew Carey took over. Drew actually, when he took over, he says, "No, I want to give away nice cars." Like they would give away cars, like they were giving away Yugos and stuff like that. It was hilarious. Oh yes, yeah. The Photoshop, the free one. Yeah, that's not bad if you can get it. Yeah. And then Monty Hall. Yeah, Monty Hall was great, but that show was canceled for long. So Wayne Brady was part of the reboot, and I have music on from the reboot, the beginning of the reboot, just by the fact that my friend was the first engineer on it, and they didn't like the music on it, so he and I wrote a bunch of music for the show, and so for 3 or 4 years we were having quite a bit of spins on that. And it was nice because it was 5 days a week on network television on an hour show. So that's pretty good. Now, the time slot, see, if the show was airing at 9 p.m. during prime time, it would pay a lot more than at 9 a.m., which is when it was airing. The only time slot that paid less than 9 a.m. was like 3 a.m. Like the overnight time slot, like from midnight on to like 7 or 6 or something like that, pays less. But the best paying slot, I mean, I wrote a song for The Mentalist, and it was 1:30, and that was a primetime ABC, and I got, for the first airing, I think I made $2,500 for one airing of that show, and then the next airing I think was $700 because it was a rerun, and the people weren't watching it because they'd already seen it. Like those kind of shows you don't really watch twice because you already know who did it. It's a whodunit show. So, but in reruns, I make $50 a quarter from that show or something like that. So, yeah, The Mentalist, it was a good show. Yeah, and I actually did a sideline for it too, which means I pretended to play on one episode, so I get paid for that one still too. But that's just pennies. It's not much. Anyway, let's see. Yeah, that was his big. Yeah, that was his big thing, was spay and neuter your cats. Yep, Your animals. Yep. Yeah. Well, when we got our cat, she was already pregnant. She was a stray, and she ended up in our house. We've taken care of her ever since. She's a big cat too, because she's part Maine Coon. So she kind of has that thing. So, all right, I'm gonna sign off. Thanks, guys. Appreciate you. Hopefully, I'll see you next Monday, Lord willing.